sadly, Mexico is not thinking about technology. Mexico will recycle technology.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Halftime Snacks podcast, the place where we snack about interesting topics in sports, business, technology, and everything in between. Let's get to it! For today's halftime snack, it is my pleasure to host Eduardo Shabot. Eddie is a football genius. He always gets to impress me with the massive amount of knowledge he has on soccer and sports in general. He writes for Online Sports Journal and hosts a weekly show on national radio called Balones al Aire in Mexico City. He recently started a podcast called Historias del Balón, where you can learn about the connection between the past and the present of different soccer teams around the world. This man is known for his love for soccer, and he's here to talk with us about the future of Mexican football. It is my honor to introduce you on this halftime snack to the one and only Eddie Shabot. What's up,
Let,
Eddie?
let, let's make clear that I'm half as good as you have presented me, no, for the public to know. But yes, it's my pleasure to be here with you, Ronen, in this incredible podcast that you have created.
Thank you very much for taking my invitation with no hesitation. And how about we start off? I was checking out some interesting soccer statistics, and for what I saw before the coronavirus, the Liga in Mexico was the sixth league in the world with the highest average attendance, right behind the big five leagues in Europe. It looks like the Liga MX is very popular locally. The first question that pops into my mind is if you think that the Mexican League is the sixth best league in the world in terms of quality and popularity, and why.
I would love to say that it is Ronen, but I will be lying, and I don't want to lie. Sadly, the relationship between the attendance at the stadiums and the quality, it's not a good relationship. Um, in Mexico, soccer is one of the biggest interests, especially in cities like Monterrey, Guadalajara, because it's one of the most popular things to do, like to go to the stadium to watch the games. But in terms of quality, I think we're not even in the first 10, 15 leagues. Sadly, Mexico has a big problem in this area because we don't have anyone to compare to. Because we will sure be getting in this topic later, but we don't compete in the Copa Libertadores. We don't compete with anything more than the MLS teams that sadly they are not in the Mexico team level yet. So we think that we are great. We think that our soccer is incredible, and then we go to the World Cup and we do what we always do, that it's lost in the second round. So I don't think we're the sixth best league. I don't think we are, like I said, even in the best of the world, because we don't compete. We don't have even a good competition system. Mexico has this liguilla that it's like the playoffs. Before this pandemic, there were 8 teams that qualified for the playoffs. For this season, there are 12. That means that 12 from the 18 teams will be in the playoffs, and that, of course, take some interest because you want to see the best. The playoffs are made to see the best teams of that year play between them. When you have 12 of 18, you lose a lot of interest. This have to be with the economic subject here in Mexico with the federation. They want obviously the liguilla, the playoffs have more has more audience in television, so they obviously want to have that. But in terms of quality, you're talking, we don't have relegation anymore. So we don't have that. We don't have competition between different places. What I mean by that is in Premier League, you have Liverpool winning the league by 20 points for Manchester City, that was the second best team. But then you have Chelsea and Wolverhampton playing to see which team goes to Champions, which team goes to Europe League, and which team doesn't go to any European competition. So you have more than just the title to fight for. and in Mexico you don't have anything.
That's very interesting, Eddie. And so, what do you think the Liga MX has to do? What do they need to do to create, or what do they need to do more to become as enjoyable and as popular worldwide as the big five leagues in Europe?
I think there are two main subjects. One is that they think a lot about short term and not about long term. They want results immediately. They say, let's make these playoffs with many teams and we have more money. But they don't see that if Mexico could invest their time, if the federation invests their time in talking to the CONMEBOL and getting to have another place in Copa Libertadores and to let Mexico expand and to be watched from the outside, that will help Mexico because people will want to see the Mexico League. I mean, Mexico plays the CONCACAF Champions League. No one saw that. Even the Mexico, if it's not your team that it's playing, you will not see it because it's not enjoyable. And no one knows about this until the Mexican team goes to the Club World Cup. As this last year, no, Monterrey won that cup, went to the Club World Cup and played against Liverpool and was tying until minute 89. And there is where people said, hey, from where is this team? Where is this league? We can see what's there. But if you don't have that big world to see you, you can't grow. And if you love to live in mediocrity like Mexico does in soccer, it's hard to be popular and to have fans around the world, especially if you don't play against other nations.
Do you think that, taking the mentality out of being mediocre, and like that's some of the things that they need to stop doing or do less to, raise the quality standard to become worldwide?
That's one point, to have like this worldwide competition. And the other thing is to change the system, because you have not only one but two tournaments in a year. You have every 5 months a tournament, and you don't have time, or the coaches don't have the time to create or to give their essence to the team. No, you can't rely in the young guys, because if you don't give results in 2-3 weeks, you're out and another coach can. So it's hard to have a weekly program, or to have these coaches that wants to do something big, because if you don't give results, they won't give time to the young players because they need the stars to bright so the team goes well and I don't lose my job. So Mexico has a big issue there, because you don't have time, or you don't give time to them to do what they want. Even if you see statistics, Mexico have 2 sub-17 World Cup titles. World Cup. And what happened to that players? They don't get to play because Mexico teams don't let them play, because they don't have the time to let them play and to improve, because I need results now. I can't have 1 or 2 bad seasons, but giving these guys the time to grow, because I will lose my job.
I think it's very interesting to see how they have 2 competitions in 1 year, right? Because we see Premier League, we see Liga, we see Bundesliga, and they only have 1 tournament a year, right? That it takes them the whole year, right? It's either 34, 38 games where they play, and it's like a whole condensed package of games, and right, and maybe making 2 of those, you make them more like weak. Each one of them, instead of making 1 strong tournament, you make 2 that are very like average, right?
Of course, but the problem there is, if you do this system for a year, people won't see the first 20 games, because there will be the playoffs later, and what I want to see in the first 20 games, I don't care. If now people don't want to see the first 8-9 weeks, because what is important is the playoffs, doing for a year, it's harder. Something that it's doing, another league that it's growing during this time, is the Liga Balompié Mexico, or Mexicana. And this league, what we'll do is having the first place of the competition as champion, also the playoffs, and the champion of that playoffs, if it's not the first place, that will be the same, will play against that first champion, to have a real champion, no? And I think that that's what Mexico needs to do. That's the improvement that we need, besides this worldwide play, besides playing against another teams nations like in Copa Libertadores. They need to change how we see this competition and to improve, to let the fans wants to see this, to see that if I'm in the first place for the last 5 weeks, I'm I'm close to be the champion, because here you can go in the first place all season long, and at the playoffs the eighth seed uh, get you out and you lose everything, and that's not even fair, and that's not even entertaining for people.
I really like that you speak about change, and I want us to talk a little bit more about the role of innovation, about bringing changing for good. So my question is, are there any innovation projects being financed by the Mexican Federation in soccer and maybe in other sports as well? Is there any sort of mentality around innovation?
I'm glad you ask about in another sports, because you can see that in basketball the best team in Mexico is Los Capitanes, and what they do, they achieve to let them play in the G League, the second division of the NBA. But in soccer you don't have that. You see how another federation of another sport that is not even as popular as soccer in Mexico do things right to improve players, to give them the opportunity to play against the best. And in Mexico, in soccer, you don't, because you just think about business now. We need money. We need it now. We can't think about having great players so another people wants our league to be broadcast in their country. We don't think about that, and that's a big issue. I think Mexico has a lot of problems at understanding that, and as Mexico, I talk about the federation, because even as the quantity of foreign players that we have, there's always this belief that if we had less foreign players, most Mexican players will explode and show that we can. And I don't think if that is even true. You have Tigres, that it's one of the best teams with a lot of great foreign players. André Pierre Guignac from France, Edu Vargas from Chile. I can go on, Guido Pizarro from Argentina. And the Mexican players that play in Tigres are the best in the country. You have Javier Aquino. Every Mexican player that plays in Tigres, it's in the Mexican selection, in the national team. Also in Monterrey, they have Rogelio Funes Mori from Argentina, Dorlan Pavón from Colombia, Vincent Janssen from the Netherlands. So the Mexican players that play there have to train with these big stars, have to learn from them, and then they improve. The problem here is when you have another teams that have 11, 12 foreign players that are as bad as a Mexican in their 15 years. So why? And you have to let him play because we pay a lot of money for him. So I won't let the Mexican young player to play because we pay a lot for this player that is not even as good as the Mexican young guy, but I need to let them play the other.
It sounds like Mexicans in the federation, they have a very short-term view. They don't think about long-term. They don't think about like projects that will compound throughout the years. And it also sounds like they focus a lot on the money. It's more like a business than a sport. What do you think about that?
I think every league or every sport, professional sport, it's a business. But you have to make a balance between how I want my sport to grow, to be like a trademark for my country, and how much I want the business to grow. Sometimes you have both growing at the same time. I don't know, maybe La Liga Española. No, this time the players are improving, but also they are being watched in Marruecos. So you will grow the quality, but also the trademark. In Mexico, they don't think about the sport. They say, how can we make more money? And they even fool the fans. We don't compare ourselves to any other nations more than the USA. That sadly, I love the MLS, but the level of their soccer is not even close to the Mexican yet. So we think we are great because we don't have games against other countries, and then we go to the World Cup, and yes, we can beat anyone. This is the year, and that's where reality punches no in the face, because the reality is Mexico can't improve if we don't see our problems. I will do like a metaphor as the national team. Mexico loves to have friendly games against low level national teams, as we think we're great. I mean, we're winning every game. Yes, of course, because we're playing about against the worst teams in Mexico, in Central America. But when we play against Belgium, against France, we see that we are not as good as we think we are.
Wow, that's a really interesting point of view. And since the halftime snacks is also about technology, I wanted to ask you about some of the technologies being applied in Mexican football. Are there any interesting ones? I know maybe, for example, the VAR is something maybe they use. If not, then which technology should they be using, or what's your opinion about that?
I think the VAR it was a great acquisition for Mexican soccer. They have their problems like in any other league. No, the debate and the controversy is not over by having the VAR, but there are other technologies like the Premier League has the Hawkeye. No, Mexico doesn't have because it's too expensive. But I think Mexico is doing a great decision, but not having it because it's not. You will not use it many times. How many goals you have to see if the ball completely goes in? So I understand that, but sadly, Mexico is not thinking about technology. Mexico will recycle technology. By this, I mean we will wait to another first soccer class to make something, and we will not steal it, but take it also, or create that same thing. I think something that has to be with technology and that it's all around the world. It's like this, like the book Moneyball or the movie. That teams are starting to have these people that see things that coaches don't see, and that say, "Hey, we need, I don't know, a midfielder that can do 85% of their passes correct," and they go to these technology apps where they see which players meet the requirements and the price of that player to see which acquisition I need to do. And Mexico is trying to do that. Many teams or first class teams. I say this because in Mexico you have 4 or 5 teams, that is America, Cruz Azul, Monterrey Tigres, maybe León, that are above of the other teams. It's very like an unfair society, even in money and in quality. So these teams started to have this, like in Mexico, they are called intelligence center, no, for the teams, where they search the players that they need based not on what they see on the field, but what the stats said. So I think that's how technology is impregnate in Mexican soccer.
Now is a good time to ask you, what can we expect from the Mexican football in the future? What do you think will happen? What do you think might need to happen? Where is the Mexican football going?
To the bottom of everything. I would love to say that it will grow and that we will be soon in the Copa Libertadores and that Mexico will improve. Uh, I think the bad part is that Mexico has not plans to change their business model. They will keep having this short-term thinking about having more money, and we don't care if the Mexican players don't have much time in the league. We need money, and we need it now. We need playoffs. I don't care if it's with 12 teams out of the 18. We need, because we have more audience at that stage. If we can have fans in stadiums, they will go more to a playoff game that they go to a regular season game. Uh, but that's the bad part. The good one is that I think somehow the globalization is giving the good Mexican players, the ones that can show themselves, the opportunity to go out And I mean this because besides Pachuca, that has a great young team, and they have Chucky Lozano going to Europe. They have now Eugenio Pisuto that this week he went to France. You have another teams like America that Diego Lainez played for 1 year and he went to Europe. Raúl Jimenez. No, the possibility to have Mexican players in Europe are much bigger than before, obviously. And that can make the difference because Edson Alvarez, it's another player, a young player from America that went to Ajax. Ajax is a team that really cares about the young players, about their performance, about their growth. So I think if you have, I don't want to say this, but if Mexican good players can leave Mexico to become the big stars that they can be for the national team, they can be there can be a possibility to grow because you have the stars that are playing outside that are growing like it has to be better. So I think that that's the good position for the Mexican soccer.
Well, I think that's a great place to end our conversation, Eddie. I want to thank you for bringing your brain of amazing football insights and your expertise on Mexican football. And thank you for coming on today's halftime snack. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Ronen. I love your podcast. I really endorse people to keep listening to this incredible relationship between technology and sports. It's incredible. I'm sorry for my English, but I think it's great. Thank you very much, Ronen. I have a great time.
Before you leave, I want to thank you for listening. To hear this or any other halftime snack, check out the full archive on my website, which you can find on the show notes. See you next week!